What's up, guys? We'll be going live here in a second. Hopefully the press conference starts soon. Will we get our answers? Will we get our answers? Probably not. Probably not. We've been to several of these, or we've seen several of these over the last several years. Unfortunately, 17 years with Harbaugh, that means one Super Bowl, so 16 of these. So we will see. We will see how this goes. First time trying to do a live stream, so bear with me. There they are.
Has a long way to go.
Was there actually a competition?
Pickleball.
Rough.
The awkward
rough.
start.
Well, everybody, thanks for coming. I just got back from the Senior Bowl where we spent the last couple of days looking at prospects. We went down on Monday. Good week, historically nice weather down there, so that was awesome. And we're back. We're ready to get started, and we'll take questions.
Oh, right off the bat.
The big question from the AFC Championship game is the lack of rushing attempts, specifically with the running backs. Why wasn't
good question.
there more attempt to run the ball, and was there any point during the game where you had conversations with Todd about possibly trying to run the ball?
Yes, we did throughout the course of the game. That's not the number you want to have. When it's all said and done, you look back on it, that's not
Not
really
at
gonna
all.
win us an AFC Championship game for sure. It's more than just calling plays. You know, we had, in that game, a big part of our game plan were RPOs, which are run-pass options, based on what the defense gives you, cans and check with me's, which are run-pass options a lot of times.
So did Lamar
Sometimes
check
they're pass
out?
to pass, which
That's
we
what I
had.
kind of
Sometimes
thought.
they run to run. But a lot of what we were
Did
doing
he check out of some of
was
those?
directed at the line of scrimmage by what the defense gave us, and the defense was lined up to take away the run. So the next thing would be to bring it in tight and just run the ball at heavy formations and wide receivers blocking the edge and protecting the edge that way. We could have done that, but we were down. So we wanted to keep the formations open and gives ourselves the best chance to, try to move the ball and score points. 2-minute defense, 2-minute offense at the end of the half, 2-minute offense mostly throughout the whole fourth quarter we were in. That's going to take away rushing attempts. So it's not, an excuse. You want to run the ball more. Sometimes you've got to be willing to get big and run the ball that way. We just didn't want to do it that way in the game, and it cost us the opportunity to run the ball more.
Along those lines, when you mentioned when you guys obviously beat down, they scored on their first two possessions, went down the field, possessed the ball a lot. Did those two drives and sort of that momentum that they garnered sort of force you into that, or maybe change your thinking, I guess?
It really, you could say it did. It put us in 2-minute at the end of the half, which you're going to be in anyway if you get the ball back. We played that well. We got the 2-minute opportunity, and it put us in 2-minute in the fourth quarter. So I think that's where it came up as far as run-pass play calling. We still wanted to play.
There was no run-pass play calling in the fourth
We still wanted
quarter.
to run the ball. I mean, believe it or not, it was a big part of our game plan to run the ball. Had the ball for 9 minutes.
Then why did you get
in the
away
first
from
half.
it?
So those two long drives, it took us out of opportunity to call any kind of plays. And then we didn't convert. We had mistakes. They stopped us. They made plays. We were off the field right away after that first drive. So I think all those things kind of played into it. Second half, we come out, we go 3 and out. You're not getting a chance to call any kind of runs when you're 3 and out. We got the ball back. We started moving the ball. Then we made a couple mistakes. We had penalties. We had an opportunity to score that we didn't finish the play on. And those things took us out of scoring opportunities and kind of wasted a couple drives there when it's all said and done. Then you're in a passing game at that point after all that happens. So
No.
I think when you look at the way the game
You're still
played
not
out,
in a
you
passing
can
game. You were
understand
down
it
by
from a
one
football
touchdown.
perspective. But once you get through all that, you come back, you want to run the ball against the Chiefs. There's no doubt about it. And we did want to run the ball against the Chiefs, and we weren't able to get to it.
How involved were you in the play calling during the course of the game? Did that change? Because I know at halftime you had said, I believe on television, we want to run the ball more. And when did you realize that it was just 6 carries for the running backs? Was that post?
Yeah, it's not. You don't think in those terms during the game. You're thinking play by play, series by series, what they're doing to stop you and attack you. You're not thinking, oh gosh, I'm going to have to answer for how many times we ran the ball in the press conference after the game. I mean, that's not important during the game. You're trying to find a way to win the game whatever way you can.
Yeah, but you
We
need
could have won
to
that
be
game.
analyzing
If
that
we'd
in real
finished a
time.
couple plays, we would have won the game. So our defense played phenomenally in the second half. I'm disappointed that we didn't win the game, but from a football standpoint, I understand the focus on it because it's one thing. But
It's
for me,
one
it's
huge
not the
thing,
focus.
John.
The focus is how can we how can we protect our run game a little bit better with our pass game at times?
Hmm.
So if you're going to spread people out and you want to open up your formations, you've got to protect the edges against the
Yeah,
run
you
game.
spread them out
And
by
you gotta do it in
passing
different kind of ways.
every
You can
down
do
in the
it by
second
bringing
half.
blockers in there. You can do it by run pass options and reads after the ball is snapped. You can do it with quarterback-driven stuff, which we had a few of those in there. You can do it by going to passes with check with me's, which we also called numerous times. A lot of those passes were that way. Then you've got to decide, and you've got to pick up, am I throwing a pass that's going to beat man or zone or good versus all? And those are the decisions that you have to make. So it's not so much about, hey, how many runs do we have right now? I think we need to get more so I can answer.
It's not
for
about
press
the numbers.
conference,
It's about doing
it's
what's
more about what's going to
we
give us
were
the best chance to win the game right
the
now in real
strongest
time. And
at
that's what we were.
the entire season.
John, specifically,
What a
Lamar's
terrible
legs
answer.
are such a big part of what you guys do offensively. You mentioned some of the quarterback design runs, but even some of the scramble plays. How unfortunate was it that his legs in general weren't a bigger part of the game?
Well, I mean, that was always going to be a big part of it. You know, I had a great conversation with Lamar yesterday, and we talked about all these things. You know, we hashed it all out, and Lamar is just really good football mind. You know, and
Okay.
And I'll say that we were both like lockstep. We were both already thinking the same way. So does that mean I'm saying I got a football mind, good football mind? I don't know, but I was happy with that because the challenges that you're facing schematically and personnel-wise and all that against the different defenses that kind
This is
of
fluff.
are coming
This
up
is
against
fluff,
us are
guys.
the things that he's thinking about. So
Absolute fluff.
Just saying he could have scrambled more or something like that. I don't know if that's really what your question is, but that's always going to be a huge part of it because it keeps the defense honest in a lot of ways. It didn't factor in as much in this game. It did a little bit. But we want that to be a big part of what he does, of course, because it keeps the defense honest. I mean, if they want to push out of there underneath your downfield routes, they want to match up on your checkdowns, that's going to leave Lamar, you know, and you got to find a way to stop him too. And we've seen that throughout the course
And you
of the
didn't
season.
do that.
How would you assess the overall 2023 season? Was it a success? I mean, how do you feel about it?
I think it was a great season, you know, very rewarding. I love the team, the players, the chemistry, the culture, the camaraderie. Every single day these guys came to work. The coaches, the effort they put into it, the job the scouts did.
This is
I mean,
such
it
a
was great
fluff
season.
press conference, guys.
Disappointing, you know, at the end, of course.
Oh,
it always is
disappointed.
with most teams. But
He said, Harbaugh said you have to pass to open up the run.
on a season. You know, we go to the Senior Bowl the next day. Literally woke up the next day, say goodbye to the kids.
Where were you
went
gonna
to the
run?
Senior Bowl. So we've moved on. I know I've moved on. I think the scouts
You would think passing
moved
the
on.
entire second
And
half
now
would
we're
have
excited about the
opened
future.
up the run. And if you watch the film,
You
there
lost Mike McDonald just
there
now.
was the opportunity to run.
Two questions. One, was there an aggressive play made to try to keep him, or is it a matter of you just can't keep a head coach from becoming a head coach? And second of all, what went into the decision to promote Zach Warren?
Right. Would have loved to have kept Mike, but no, we couldn't keep him. He was going to go take that job.
'Cause I
He was
didn't
happy
want to
and
step
excited
down
about it.
just
And, yeah,
yet.
We're happy for him. I mean, when these things come up, these are good things. These are good problems to have because you know you're doing well. And Mike did a great job. I think the whole defensive staff was phenomenal this year. The players were phenomenal. It's kind of interesting. Everybody talks about how talented we are, and I agree. We were super talented thanks to Eric and George Kokinis and all those guys over there in terms of some of the veteran players they put in. But that wasn't the conversation before the season, as you all well know. And I think that defense, you know, proved something to a lot of people. Same conversation that was had 2 years ago. You know, it wasn't the same one everybody was talking about at the end of this season with Mike moving on. So I'm proud of that. I mean, that's something that as a coach you look back on, you go,
It's
man,
because of me,
we
guys."
worked together, all of us, to build something really special as a team. But talking about the defensive side of the ball on defense, it was phenomenal. And the opportunities are going to happen. Denard's got an opportunity now to go be the defensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. Zach has an opportunity to be the defensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. The raising tide raises all
I'm
ships.
excited for
And those are
Zach
pretty
Orr.
good jumps for those three guys. And
I'm excited for Zach
them.
Orr.
With Zach
Possibly,
specifically,
you know, maybe
and not just that.
Hardball replacement.
The guys that are here, you know, Chris Hewitt, who's our pass defense coordinator, Anthony Weaver, who runs the whole front, you know, and does a great job with the pass rush, does a great job with the run defense. He's also my assistant head coach, phenomenal leader. Was interviewing for head coaching jobs already this year. Those guys, along with Zach and the guys that we add on defense and some of the younger coaches that are already here, including Chuck Smith.
He's really trying to take
Those
credit.
guys are going to build another great defense. And I'm going to be in the
For
middle
these
of it,
great
just like
coaches.
I'm in the middle of the offense and the special teams.
Maybe they
I'm
have to
gonna
be great
lean on
because
those
he
guys
doesn't
and trust those
actually
guys and
coach.
empower those guys to build a great defense.
You guys think
Zach
about
is
that?
super
Maybe
talented,
they
super
have to be
enthusiastic.
great because
He's
he
very
doesn't really
smart.
coach.
He is prepared for that job. He's in the middle of the defense. I think when you're a linebacker coach, that's an advantage because you're in the middle of the defense. You understand the whole defense inside and out. You got a big picture. Helps you with defensive play calling for sure. Anytime a linebacker coach usually has a little bit of an advantage as far as that goes. And Zach, there's no reason not to put Zach in that position in my mind right now, and I think he'll do a great job. But I also think he'll do a great job because of the support he's going to get from two veteran coaches who are great coaches, Chris Hewitt and Anthony Weaver.
How big of a consideration was it though with Zach? I mean, even Mike went to Michigan for a year, was a DC, called plays. How big of a consideration was it for you that he hasn't called defensive plays as a quarterback?
That's definitely a consideration. I mean, you definitely have to think about that. That's going to be something that we're going to have to work through. And,
That's
and
huge.
He's going to have to get on board with quick. I think he's been studying that, and how to do that all the way through. So in talking to him, I have a comfort level that he'll be good at it. But, he's got to go do it. There's no doubt about it. So, but he's going to get support, not just from the veteran coaches also, but the young coaches that are going to help set up those game plans and make sure that all the bases are covered that way.
John, do you have Anthony Weaver staying? He's going to stay on in the current role, or is he still juggling some stuff?
That's a good question. He's still involved with the Dolphins defensive coordinator job, and we'll see. If he gets that job, I'll be happy for him. If he takes the job, I don't know if he'll even take it if he gets
They're
offered,
taking
but,
everybody. They're
he's
taking
involved in
everybody.
that job, and he, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, Eric. Maybe I'll get in trouble. There's a league rule against this, but he'll be a great head coach. He didn't get hired this cycle, and great coaches got hired, but someday some people are going to look back and they're going to say, "Man, we had a chance to hire Anthony Weaver." I guarantee you that. They're going to say they missed their chance, and the next time around, somebody's not going to miss their chance.
I give it to Harbaugh.
that's how I
He is
feel
a
about
good speaker. He's good at public speaking. He tells you what you want to hear.
To you, and also as far as the plan in place then to replace that.
Yeah, I mean, Joe and I worked together for 26 years, and, for probably the last 15, he sat next to me, during the draft and had a chance to study and watch me stack the board and run the meetings. And great evaluator, a great consensus builder. He did an amazing job the last 5 years especially, really working closely with the scouts, managing and leading the scouts. And he's just a great guy. He's one of my best friends. I'm very happy for he and Jennifer and their kids, their boys. It's a special family.
Yeah, that's a big loss.
As far as replacements, we've got a great staff, and one of the luxuries I have as a GM is that we've all been together for a very, very long time. You have, someone like George Kokinis who's been here forever, probably the best, pro personnel guy in the league, and that's how we find these guys like the Van Noys and the Clownies and the Millettes and the Darbys and all those kind of guys. Mark Acevedo, David Blackburn, our director of college scouting. It'll be hard for me personally just because I really value Joe as an evaluator and as a person, as a friend. But I think we have the people to kind of take care of the process for us.
Hey, Eric, as you get into moving forward into next year, do you anticipate using franchise tag on Madubuike, and is there any way that you anticipate seeing him reach free agency?
I learned a lesson this year, and that was, as hard as
Might be a Seahawk.
the Lamar negotiation.
Might be a Seahawk next
One of
year.
the great things about that negotiation
Same
was
with
I learned that
Patrick
it's
Queen.
beneficial to just not talk about things, and I think there is a value sometimes to not really showing your cards or showing your hand, and so we'll have all those decisions I think made at some point coming soon. We don't have a lot of time. We'll talk about it, John and I, with Steve and Oz and Joe and George, not Joe, George and Nick and Pat. But we'll have those decisions made in the coming weeks. We'll know what's best for us to do. It's something that we haven't just started thinking about it. Obviously, it's something we've been thinking about. I think Justin had a great year, as did Patrick Queen. Those two guys, obviously, Pro Bowlers, great seasons, and we'll have a good plan in place for those guys.
Are either of you
Next man up for sure.
time next week? We'll be talking about.
I don't think Patrick Queen has the success he has if he goes somewhere else without Roquan.
Great
I really don't.
game, not his best AFC championship game. Where do you guys kind of fit the postseason evaluation in what Lamar did this year? Do you separate it? I mean,
Oh, he's not
how
going to
does
be
that fit
honest
into
here.
What you want to see from Lamar in future years?
Well, to me, it's big picture. This is the first year in this offense. And I think if you take, you'd asked about, Todd, you'd asked about how do you judge the season, and Eric, I said exactly what I would say. You take it as a whole, and each game, you go back through each game, each part of it, and within that, each play within it, that's how we evaluate it. And so it's a pretty deep metric, So success, failure, well, it depends on your criteria, In the National Football League, unless you don't make the playoffs, your last game is not a success unless you win the Super Bowl. So you got to understand that. So when you don't win your last game, especially a home AFC Championship game, which is so rare and so hard to get to, it's rare air, then it's like, whoa, is it a success, is it a failure? Lamar Jackson is a phenomenal success.
Losing that game isn't a failure. It's how we lost the
It's a
game.
phenomenal success as a person, as a leader, as a family man.
I would have loved
You're asking
to
about the
have,
football player.
straight up
in my
just
opinion,
lost to
there's
the
nobody better
Chiefs,
in
but
this
we didn't.
league,
That didn't happen.
Especially nobody better for the Baltimore Ravens, and for this organization, for this city, and just from a historical perspective.
Then
I'm
put him
excited
in position
about the
to
future.
win
I'm excited about
games,
taking
big
this offense
games.
to the next level next year. An opportunity to pick up where we are.
The next level, guys.
And dig deeper with what we can give him. You say Lamar has the keys to the offense, okay? Now you build the offense, it's like setting up a car. We got to build a car. We got to set the car up. If Lamar's a driver, he's got to be involved in the setup of the car even more. Last year that wasn't even possible, right?
Baltimore
this
football.
Year, he's going to be involved.
Exactly.
We've talked about. He's already involved about what we talked about yesterday in setting up that car. Now he comes in on the front end,
If
and
they
he's talking to the
come
guys
with
about how
hard
the car's set up
questions,
and
they get
exactly
booted
how
out of
things
this
need to be
meeting.
run.
Have you heard
This
about
year,
that?
Every day was a new day in the offense.
Anybody who's critical of them is not allowed to come to
Next
these
year
press
will be a new
conferences.
day every single day, and that's pretty easy to figure out, and it makes sense, right? But it's real, and I'm looking forward to that next.
Two
part of
questions
that
about the
process.
worst loss ever
When
in
you
Ravens
talk to
history.
Lamar- When you talk to Lamar, what does he feel needs to be done?
Yeah, I'm not even bringing the list in my pocket right now, but he's
What a
he's talking X's and O's. He's talking the
What a
opportunity
corporate,
and how we
what
attack the
a
different
corporate
defenses that we
style
play.
press
Everything from
conference,
how
man.
we
I guess
practice to it,
they ran it
to
like
the
a
options that
corporate
we have,
office,
protecting
but
runs, pass protection, how we protect and how we
are we,
adjust the protection.
is this cool, guys? Is this
How we get
acceptable?
to certain routes against certain coverages.
Coach
Those are things
speak.
that are on his mind,
Harbaugh is the
you know,
master of
and
coach
those are things
speak.
that he's going to be involved with the staff talking about. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, we're
He wants to
excited.
do it. And
We're excited
just
to
into it,
waste
man.
the
He's really
best
into it.
opportunity we ever had to win a Super
Like
Bowl.
you said earlier about, kind of being judged on the last game. I think what we've heard from fans this week is they felt like, it wasn't so much that you lost, but they felt like it wasn't the team they had seen all season in the last game. And they felt that way also in 2020 and in 2019. Do you think that's a fair criticism? And do you see anything in the process that you would tweak to avoid that, I guess?
Definitely a fair criticism, because that's what you see. I mean, it's just, you look at it, it's not the same. It wasn't, a 30-point win over a division leader, obviously, and that's the result of it. It was the same team. It was the same guys. It's the game plan that was devised against that particular team that day. But we didn't play better than the team we
It
played.
was
They
the
played better
game
than us.
plan
They had a
that was
better game plan.
designed. Did you hear him say that?
They executed their game plan better. They made plays. I mean, they made some great throws, some great catches, a few great runs, in the first half especially, and they scored those points. Their defense came up and made plays. They tackled well. They kept us bottled up. They covered us well. We didn't come up with those great plays. That's really the difference. So in that sense, it's not the same team, but in the sense of the effort, the preparation, what we were bringing to the table schematically, all those things, it was exactly the same team. It was just a different result. And
I mean,
every
Lamar
single
was
team
off
in
on
the
some of
league,
his passes. I agree
is
with
gonna
you.
have that
That's a
feeling
great point.
after losing in the
I think
playoffs.
there's not
So,
one
I get it,
specific
I feel
person
the
to blame
same
for
way. I
this.
mean, I'm telling you, I'm
But I still think it's the coach.
heartbroken.
It's up to the
The
coach
fact
to
that
see
we
if he's
didn't
having
win
a
that game at
bad
home,
game to
in
kind
front
of
our crowd for the first time
help
in
him
all
out
these
by
years
calling
and
plays
get a
that
chance to play in the Super
don't
Bowl.
rely so
Because
heavily
I felt the
on
same way
him.
last year. I felt like if we
he's not calling the plays, he needs to check with the person who is calling the
game
plays.
last year, made the mistakes last year that cost us the game against the Bengals, I feel like we'd have been in the Super Bowl last year. I believe that with all my heart. I've told the guys that. They know that.
Shame on Bisciotti for falling for this.
So I think that's normal and natural. Our fans care. They care just as much as we do as
Yeah, the
coaches. as
fans
players. I
cared
have to
more
believe
on
that.
Sunday, man.
And we all should be feeling that.
Fans cared
We all should
more.
be excited about where we're going.
The fans
and
showed
what's
up.
in front of us and what we're building.
What's in
here.
front of us?
And then we're challenged
Okay.
by the things we got to overcome. There's always things that you lose and you've got to make up for and find a way to even improve on. We did a great job of that last year. I hope we can do even better this year.
Eric, by his own admission, Ronnie Stanley the other day expressed disappointment in how he played this year. We know how the last few years have gone with him health-wise and lack of availability, but given where he is with his health, performance, and also with his compensation level, Where is the organization with him, and is left tackle a position you need to start maybe looking at more carefully in a big picture sense?
Well, I think the offensive line is always going to be something that we stress here. We're going to continue to look at that every single year, particularly as you get older. It gets tougher and tougher and tougher for guys to stay healthy. And unfortunately, Ronnie, no fault of his own, but he has
Ronnie
had,
needs to go.
a series of injuries that have hurt him, hurt his
Trade him. We're not going to get anything if we
the
trade him,
ankle,
but
and
he
then
needs
a
to
series
go.
of knee injuries, and so that's definitely been a factor. I love Ronnie. He's still a talented player. I think this is going to be a big offseason for him, getting himself healthy, getting himself strong again, coming back in great football shape. We'll make all those
relying on
personnel
Ronnie.
decisions
Ronnie, it
come
came out
into
today that Ronnie was the
too, but
most
as far as the position
flagged
in general, I definitely think, Coach said this in
left tackle
2008
in all of the
interview.
NFL.
He said we're always going to have a
I saw
strong,
that stat
physical,
this
big
morning.
offensive line, and that's kind of bled into the culture of this place and who
Terrible,
we are as an
terrible
organization.
signing.
We're going to continue to do that.
The second he got paid, he completely changed. I know injuries are one thing, but I don't see him. I heard that he doesn't even work out as well as the other guys on the line.
Unfortunate for Tyus, he couldn't play this year. Can't really get into all the different specifics of that, as you guys know, how we handle the injuries. I think Tyus has probably talked about it in some way. He had an injury, unfortunate, and wasn't able to play, and we'll have to continue to assess that in the coming weeks to see where he stands with that.
That was one of my questions I had. Baltimore football,
great
like
man,
how many plays did Lamar check out
Just a
of that
tough
were
deal for him this
RPOs
year.
or
We'll have
go
to
from
get-
a run play checking into a pass play. The Chiefs definitely tried to confuse him, and I think they were pretty successful in doing that. I tried to watch the footage and see when he did that. I did notice there was probably a couple audibles that he calling out of a run play to a pass play.
What do you, when you say difficult, I'm not really sure what you mean.
Clowney out of the league, Van Noy, he was on the couch.
Right.
But they came in and they were able to
Oh,
continue
okay.
and
Bring Clowney back.
teams
Bring Clowney
didn't look
back.
at him much.
Yeah, I think that's, partly their own ability as players and their desire at this stage of their careers. But I also think it's this place. Players come in here and they're part of our strength and conditioning program and the way that we practice and the way that we coach. And, other players and the vibe that this place has, you guys see it at practice every day. We've become a place, I think, where veteran players can come and really succeed and play well. And there's a lot of reasons for that. The performance stuff that we do upstairs and the wellness stuff that we do, and nutrition, and Sarah and Sam and the trainers.
The
and
Ravens
John and his
are a
program, and
very
guys come in here and
attractive
flourish. And so I think
organization
it
to come
speaks
to,
that,
especially for vets.
But also to the type of guys that they are. I mean, Van Noy, Clowney, Millette, Darby, all those guys. Those guys are wired the right way. And they really, really wanted to win this year. They saw potential to win this year, and they hit the ground running, and they played very well.
Going back to the defense real quick, obviously it's a big loss when you lose a guy like Mike McDonald, and you always want
Huge
the
loss.
coordinator to be able to leave their fingerprint, but when your defense was as good as it's been, how different do you want it to look? What differences would you be looking for?
Well, yeah, I'm looking for evolution and growth, just like we would if Mike was still here.
How do you grow and
That's
evolve
why
from having
that's why we have
the number one defense, though, guys? Come on.
advancement from within. I've seen the job that those guys have done and Zach has done, and we're building and evolving this defense ever since 2008.
I believe in Zach Gore, though. I think he can get it
Some
done.
sea change
We
and
haven't
sea
had a
change in
bad
12, there was sea
when you
change
think
in
about it,
18.
we have not had
And
a
then there was
less than a
change of,
top 10
face a
D
little
coordinator
bit,
for so
when Mike
long.
came in, and now there'll be another change of face with Zach in here and kind of putting his fingerprints on it, like you said. But it'll still be in the world of what we do with Ravens defense, schematically, and even more importantly, how we like to play. And Zach, hard to beat Zach in terms of knowing that, because he's born and bred a Raven. So I'm looking forward to it.
I'm sure you've gone over the AFC Championship a few times. What happened with Justin Tucker before the game? We heard from Tucker. We've heard from the
Sounds
Chiefs.
like
I don't know if you have an opinion on
Jerry
who was
Coleman.
wrong, who was right, and whether or not that got into the heads of your players, as some fans perceive, because you guys had 4 personal fouls throughout the game, and maybe the Chiefs were in your guys' heads as a perception out there.
So, yeah, as far as the thing, I mean, I know Justin did the same. I wasn't out there for it, so I didn't see it. I heard about it after. But same routine he's done for the last 12 years, same timing. There is no side of the field, so the field doesn't split
Was
in
the
half until a
Chiefs?
certain
I've seen a
time.
photo of the
The
Chiefs
kickers are
kicker
always
on
out
our
there,
side,
as well as the returners before that
right
happens. So
around
teams
all our
use
players
both
the same
ends.
thing.
Field
So I
kickers
would
gotta
like to
kick
really
with
know
both-
that.
Both wins, you get to kick both ways. While that was going on, their kickers were down
Yeah.
there at the other end doing the exact same thing in the exact same spot. And there was no problem down
See,
there.
the media needs to call that out.
I think it's pretty normal that we
No
do that.
one wants to
Played
go
the Chiefs a bunch of
against the
times
narrative
before.
of
It was the same
Kelsey
exact
and
time schedule
Mahomes
that we
being
had
good
all those
guys.
other times.
No one.
So it's fine. As far as the other part of it, no, it's a football game. It's about how you execute and how you play, and the Chiefs played a better football game than we did. But
They
that
were
part of it early
more
on, I
mentally
don't fault
prepared
Tuck
for
at all.
sure.
He was doing what he always does. I'm not blaming anybody. I could care less. Doesn't mean anything. Didn't get in Tuck's head. He's kicking the ball straight and kicking touchbacks. So I don't think it impacted the game in any way.
How would you have this feeling, the seeming disconnect between Lamar and Rashad Bateman in the passing game this year?
I don't have anything to say about that way you asked the question because I don't see it that way. You know, those guys are doing their jobs, and we're trying to build a pass game around everybody we can. I mean, Rashad Bateman has a great future. Yeah, he runs great routes. I mean, he's developed into a great route runner. And I know Lamar wants to get him the
I think
ball
he's
as
one of
much
the
as he
best in the
can.
league running
So
routes.
the idea that he didn't, maybe you're saying he didn't get the many passes as you would have liked him to get or whatever. Hey, I agree, man. I want Bate to flourish and make a bunch of plays, and he's going to do that. And I think he'll be a bigger part of it next year just by the fact that he was healthy all year this year, had a chance to establish himself that way, and he'll be starting. He'll be playing all those snaps, and he'll rise to the occasion.
Rebuilt the receiver room last year, but Odell, Aguilar, Duvernay, they're set to become.
It's like they're trying to rush through this. You guys see the thank you grayed out embedded into their video. Someone has their button on. They're like, thank you.
I
Like,
love
press
the
it.
guys we
It's over
have
with.
coming back. I mean, I think Bates going to have a great season, and we got Zay. We will talk to guys and look at potentially bringing some guys back, but I feel really good about where we are.
Didn't they restructure OBJ?
Isaiah Likely this year, and we know, of course, what Mark can do. Mark Andrews.
I thought I saw they
We got a
restructured
lot of
him
guys that can make plays, and
to come
I
back.
think, you know, watching Zay this year and just picturing Zay and Bate out there next year is very exciting.
Okay,
And
great
we'll
question,
see
Baltimore.
Where that leads. We've also got the draft, and like I said, you know,
I mean, again,
we'll
I
have
think these
conversations with our
reporters that are allowed in this
free
room,
agents as well. And we've already
if
started
they
these
ask
conversations
any
in some
question
cases.
controversial,
So I would expect the receiver.
they
room
get
to be
their
very
press
strong
pass
next
or
year
media pass
and
taken
very
away.
productive.
I've heard about that. Some of these guys get escorted out of here if they ask
Success rate with draft picks in this franchise.
controversial questions.
That being said, the Super Bowl window is obviously wide open. Are you, just given where you guys are competitively, are you viewing, you know, potential for using those picks to acquire established players already in the league, or is the franchise preference remain just kind of find guys through the process?
Yeah, I mean, we were just, you know, fundamentally, we're always going to be focused on the draft. I mean, look at our history. You know, now we've, you know, in the last couple of years, we have traded draft picks for players in some cases. But I think generally,
That would have actually been my
we're gonna be a
question.
draft-centric
Who
team.
should be accountable?
And, you know, as we've said, the landscape has changed.
I would
a
ask
little
this
bit
question.
because we're paying a quarterback
As a
who
head
deserves
coach,
it.
if
A lot
you
of money,
see
and
there's
that's
an
gonna have
issue
a
with the
salary
play
cap
calling on the
ramification
offense,
for
when do you
sure.
think it's appropriate
We'll
just
start feel
to
that. We
step
started
in
to feel that last year. We'll
and
feel that
veto?
this year, as do a lot of teams. So draft picks are very important to us. Will continue to be very important.
Brian
However,
Smith, fire Harbaugh.
of course, if we have the chance to acquire an all-pro type guy, we'll look at that very
I would have
closely.
been nice to have a
So there's really
announcement
not one
come out
set
this week
formula
like Harbaugh
for
is
it.
retiring.
But,
He's stepping
generally,
down.
We like to have a lot of draft picks.
But no, he's too
and,
proud.
I would expect us to have a lot
He's
of draft
like,
picks this year.
if you're my age, he's like all of our parents. They never want to admit when they're wrong. It's that
Looking back
age
on
group,
him
that
being the
demographic.
region, how do you still feel the same way you felt at the time when you guys didn't pick that up?
Harbaugh
Well, you know,
fits
you never
that
know
to a
on these
T.
situations. It's the challenge. Patrick had an amazing season. I love Patrick. He's one of my favorite guys on the team. He's put himself in a great position.
He's not going to be the
Potentially,
same without
Mark, see what
Roquan.
his
He
value
was not
is.
the same before
You
Roquan.
know, you never know. If you pick up an option, that's less money that you can spend on somebody else. And so how do those dominoes fall? Really hard to say. I can say that Patrick, I'm I know Coach feels the same way. He had an excellent season, Pro Bowl season. His future is extremely bright. He's one of the best inside linebackers in the league. Credit to him. I'm very happy for him, very, very happy for his family. He's a special player and a special person.
Generally speaking, with 20-plus pending unrestricted free agents.
You said it, Baltimore.
Salary cap
You said
wise,
it.
It's kind of first priority looking at can we bring a lot of these guys back? How do you feel about
That's why I think hiring a young coach is like
Well, we'll be busy.
what
You know, we'll
some
be
of the
talking
smart
about
teams are
agents,
doing right now
combine,
because
we
the
start
younger
talking to
coaches
agents,
connect better with
looking
their
at,
football
the
team.
crop of free agents that are out there, but
I
mostly
don't
our
necessarily
guys
want to play on a team
who can we
where
bring
no
back
matter
and
how we
what's that
play, we come
contract
in
gonna
and
look like and what will
the
those
coach leads the
long-term
chair like, who's
ramifications
got
be
it
as
better
well.
than us?
And, at some point.
Just me?
You get to
I
the
don't
point
consider
where
that,
you have to
something that's going to
play
get
with
me
who you
riled
have,
up, ready
and
to go,
you have
ready to
draft
play.
well, and you have to hit on players, and I think we've done that the last couple of years. We've seen the emergence of a lot of younger players, and that's going to continue. We've got a great process. We've got great evaluators. Our coaching staff does
They
a
do.
phenomenal job, and we also
Not the
players.
coaching staff, but they have great
So, I don't really
evaluators. They have,
subscribe
I mean,
to the idea of windows opening and
EDC's the
closing.
man.
I'd like to believe that with careful roster building and good drafting.
You remember when the owner used to be
development of players, the
in these
window can always
meetings?
be open.
I don't know why Bashadi didn't want to be. I don't know why he stopped doing this.
So forth. What's kind of the plan with them? I know you've got a couple of free agents at the guard spot, and sort of how much emphasis will the offensive line be? I guess in that evaluation process, be free agents.
Yes, get Lamar a line.
Yeah, well, congrats to Kevin. He's at the Pro Bowl right now, and
Get him a left
he's earned
tackle,
it. I think
please.
He's been a Pro Bowler. This was his first year, but in my mind, he's been a Pro Bowler. A great attitude, great player, veteran, awesome family. His wife, by the way, she's an unbelievable baker. But I'm really happy for Kevin. He's a free agent. He's one of those guys that we'll continue to talk to. He and I met last week. We'll see what that looks like in the coming weeks. But as I said, the offensive line is going to always be a preference. I know it's not a sexy position for a lot of people, my sons included. But it's a critical, important for our team, and we will spend a lot of resources and a lot of time talking with.
Question: who's going to be there as a lineman for the 30th pick?
The emotions coming off of Sunday's loss, and now a busy week full of lots of changes personnel-wise. Have you guys remembered a time in the past where you've had such a busy first week of the off-season? And are you guys feeling all right?
What?
Yeah, I remember last year.
Did she ask him if he's feeling all right?
Last year. The year before, it was just as busy. The
Him
year
and his
before, it was
Diet
the same
Cokes.
amount of busy. And I think your point is really great because it's amazing. You come off that game and the emotions of it and the challenge of it, and you have to dive right back in. And that is exactly how it feels to what you're saying. You got to go, man. You got to go to work. You have to set it. We
These
haven't
guys
just
are acting
been
like it's
working
just
on
a
staff.
normal
We've been working
playoff
on
loss, man.
Setting our path, stoking up the engines schematically.
Someone should ask the
defensively and
question,
especially
hey,
offensively,
John,
since the whole staff was
the
together
team put up
offensively all
30
week.
points in their last
We're gonna
6,
meet
7
today,
games.
and that's going to be
Well,
a
that
presentation that's gonna be
happened
made about what we're
to
gonna-
lead
what we're
them
doing
to
for the
only
next
to
4
score
weeks in terms of
10 points.
setting up
They
our
would
offense
escort
for what
me
we're
out,
going
though.
in the
They
future.
would
So
escort me out
that's
after I was
exactly
like,
what you
like,
do,
sir,
and that's
I don't
exactly
know if you're
what you
supposed to be here.
Morgan Moses at the locker room cleanout mentioned he might be looking at a surgery option this spring. Is Marcus Williams undergoing surgery? Are there any guys that you anticipate injuries leading to, holding up from training camp?
Marcus is not, I just had this conversation yesterday. Very few surgeries. Morgan has to decide if he wants to have the surgery or not. He doesn't have to have it, but he might want to have it to be, he's got to make that decision, performance-wise and life-wise. And then Adafe Owe had a thumb surgery. He'll be like full speed in like 6 to 8 weeks. And was there another one? There might have been one more that I can't remember, but nothing serious. So no, there's no big major injuries.
I just heard EDC off camera say he didn't want to talk about that.
That will.
You guys hear that?
They'll be rehabbing like Ajabo and some other guys.
Do you anticipate any changes on the offensive or special teams staff?
Yeah, just kind of working through that right now. That's guys get opportunities. I don't want to speak before all this hiring process gets done. I don't really, but then again, opportunities come along.
Have you had a chance to talk to Lamar since the season ended, and have you gotten input on what he might look, what he might want, and his kind of vision for possibly offensive additions?
No, we just texted. That's probably the way that we can really communicate most of the time is through text. And
You good, bro?
Just texted him and told him how proud I was of what he was able to accomplish this year, and just watching him play was pretty amazing for me to see. Him week
They
to
did
week,
play
just
amazing.
the way
They
that he
did play
practiced,
amazing down the
stayed
stretch,
healthy
except
this
for the
year.
biggest
So
game
we'll have those
when all that
conversations. Maybe
mattered.
I'll go down at some point and visit with him, as I have a few times over the years. And
Something
maybe
tells me
take him
Lamar
out to
doesn't hang
dinner
out
and
with
just talk about
Eric
things in
too
general
much.
and get some sun. But you know, maybe that's probably going to be
Wear
a
a
February or
hat.
March
Make sure
thing.
you wear a hat when you go down there.
But, you know, so, you know, no, I haven't really talked to him too much, but Lamar, I tell you, he's great about, you know, offering suggestions and ideas, and he and I have a great, you know, relationship where we can exchange different ideas.
Why isn't
on
Monk in
personnel
here?
and things, and he's a huge fan of college football, and, you know, I appreciate his.
Where you at, Todd?
Eric,
Todd should be up here.
About Zach, do you ever go back when a guy reaches a new level like Zach has with his defensive coordinator position, look at the old notes from when he was a player, just kind of, and just in a bigger picture, what does it mean as an organization to see somebody who's a
Again,
player
Baltimore, me and you would be kicked out of this press conference, man.
reach these levels?
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, you know, you do have certain
There is a
players
guy
over the
that
years you
stands
think
to the
about,
right. I
this
know
guy
you've
made a
all seen
great
him. I don't know
coach.
his name, but he's a big
We were just
guy.
talking about a
Big
couple
guy.
guys the other day
And if
that
anybody
we-
asks a
that
question
played
they don't
here
like,
that we thought
they
would make great
yank their
coaches. Zach comes
press
from a
pass
football
right away
family.
from
His
him.
brothers played, his dad played. He's got a coaching background in his family, and he's a student of the game. You know, Zach's not the biggest guy. You guys that covered him as a player, you know, I mean, I think he probably played at, I don't know, 218 maybe, 220. I mean, he had a hard time keeping weight on, but what made Zach so good as a player was he had a great instinct for the game. He was very, very quick to key and diagnose, and he played with a passion, and he was just relentless to the football. And those qualities make a great coach. So I have no doubt that Zach.
And that's
is gonna
exactly
be
what this is,
a great
complacency.
defensive coordinator, and probably if I had a
I
crystal
mean, it's
ball,
going to
I'd
be up
coach
to
him
us
that.
as fans.
Were you surprised?
When the media wants to keep the narrative that this is a great coaching staff here in
No,
Baltimore, and
I wasn't surprised.
they are successful,
Is there a
but
follow-up to
I mean, we've won Super Bowls before, and what is is a
Good, maybe you
successful
asked the
season
question,
more important than winning the Super Bowl? I don't think so.
Knows the success that's been had here.
This is Marty Ball 2.0.
Who has
Right
been
here,
watching
this
all these
guy.
college players develop into great professionals.
Johnny Ball 2.0.
I was very upset. Joe's a great guy.
Johnny Ball is
I
playing great
agree. I mean,
in the
what you're saying is
season,
right. And Jim and Joe already have a relationship
but
because of all the visits that Joe
totally
makes.
crash and
of course,
burning
being
in the
from Ravens,
playoffs.
You know, I'm sure Joe gets a little more access as far as talking to Jim, you know, because they have a shared, you know, interest. And they built a great relationship already. They've been friends for a while. But that wasn't, Joe was already involved in that job. He was involved in that job before Jim was ever even finished with his season. Joe had already, I think he already
has.
interviewed there probably. So I think when they got the two
I fully
finalists, and
expected
then
Mike Vrabel
Jim
to
was
find
involved
a
in both the
new
interviews, he
job
loved
already,
both
but
guys. And he thought they were both great. But the fact that, you know, they knew each other already is good for Jim, and I think it's good for Joe. And, you know, it's a really great hire, to your point.
another question needs to be like, the AFC's only getting stronger every year, John. How are you going to,
yeah,
what did you learn
absolutely.
from this year that you're not going to
Oh,
do
okay? Oh, no, it was
going into
already-
next year?
No, he didn't ask that. Maybe he should have, you know? Kind of, now that I think about it. But it was already in the works, you know? It was already in the works. But he asked me what I thought of Joe, obviously, and I'm nothing but, I just love him and respect him, think he's the best.
Eric, you lose obviously a great pickleball pro and Joe, but that's not my question. You guys have been through a lot of these AFC championships. Eric, you a few more than John.
Oh, I wasn't through a number in Philadelphia
That's
before?
true. I meant
Get your facts straight, all right?
Baltimore-based question. Was that gut-wrenching, the loss? I mean, you know, a lot of people want to compare it to New England and all that. Was that more gut-wrenching, what happened Sunday, and did it take a while to...
Jerry Coleman's the only one in there
You guys
that
personally,
could
as far
act.
as you guys
I think that's Jerry Coleman. He's the only
You know,
one in there that
Jerry,
can ask.
They're all gut
Yeah, Jerry
you know,
Coleman.
for me, but I move on. As I said, you know, I don't have the luxury. I don't get to talk about it on the radio all week and write articles about it. I have to move on. I mean, that is what it is. I got to go to the Senior Bowl. Imagine how my wife felt when I told her Sunday night.
But you
"By
have
the
to
way, I'm
do
leaving
some
in the
sort of
morning to go to the
analysis
Senior
of
Bowl."
what happened. You're not just like,
That's
oh,
what we
it's
do.
good. Let's
And
move
it was a
on.
hard game. You
Because then
know,
they're never going to learn from their mistakes.
you move
They really
on.
am not.
You have
And
to.
unfortunately,
I mean,
that's
there's
terrible
been
for
so
us as
many
Ravens
games
fans.
Over the years, you know, I could go into, I could talk about the game against the Steelers in 2007 when I was at the Manhattan Beach Marriott in the Monday night game when I smashed the mirror in my hotel room. I think we were down 21-0 in the first, 5 minutes of the game, Jameson? You know, right? You covered that game. So, I mean, there's so many bad games, right? There's so many great games. We're blessed to be a part of it. We're blessed to be a part of this team. And every year is a unique challenge, and we'll move forward, and we'll be the best we can next year.
I wanted to approach the running back position. Quite a few free agents in that room as well. I know you guys probably think highly of
Derrick Henry.
the future of the running back.
Bring in Derrick Henry.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we have Justice on a 2-year deal.
Still think we need to draft somebody too.
Last year, Nick was able to get a 2-year deal done with Justice, and Justice was really one of the unsung heroes of the team this year down the stretch. I mean, guy had a phenomenal season. Obviously we do have some free agents, and it was a challenge this year with JK's injury, which was unfortunate, terrible for us, and then with Keaton. But, we'll assess that market. We'll talk to those guys. We'll see where things
I was at the Jimmy's
kinda lie
tailgate
with
before the
Gus
game
and JK.
on
Both
Sunday,
two
and
guys I have a lot of
Keaton
respect
Mitchell came to the
for,
tailgate. He looked
outstanding players for
rough,
us
man.
over the past
He
3 or
looked
4
rough.
years. We'll look at the draft. We'll look at free
I don't see how
agency.
he's going to be ready.
That's kind of a position like offensive line. Like, we've got to have some good running backs. I think we do. Part of that is predicated on how guys come back from injuries. But
Especially
I
for
know
running
we've got a
backs.
great running backs coach, and we'll be ready to go.
For both of you, I know you guys haven't done your big meetings with Steve yet, but I mean, has he offered any comment on sort of the season overall, what he thought of it, and where he kind of thinks the team stands right now?
I think Steve was extremely happy that we could bring an AFC championship game
Another
to
question would
Baltimore.
be for them,
And I think he
why
was
did you
really
sign
happy with
Dalvin
just the
Cook?
season in general.
Why
I think
did you
he's now
sign
earned
Dalvin Cook?
He's a huge draft, Nick, and I think
But again,
he's
I'd
starting
be
to
escorted out of
look
here.
at that. I was down there this week, and he was asking me about players. But, it's always hard for all of us. I mean, we kind of we love what we do, and we want to see this thing, finish in a great way, and it didn't. So that's a challenge for everybody, honestly. But we move on, and we get excited, and we understand the
Yeah,
challenge.
JK's not going to be the same guy.
He's a part of that as well.
I would be shocked.
I texted him, he said some great things, and of course, he's also a competitor, and he wants to find every way we can to get better, just like we want to do it. I mean, you talk about the losses, just got me thinking, how do you rank them? I feel really bad about the Colts loss. I was devastated. I was cut in half on that one.
Deflection.
And the Browns loss. And then the two Steelers losses. Probably even, if I'm ranking them, probably even
He
worse.
feels bad, guys.
So those 4 losses during the regular season were brutal as well. So, we take it hard. We take it hard, man. Anytime we lose a game, we take it hard. So we took that one hard too. But then you know what? You're tough. You better be. To Eric's point. And I sit up here and say that, and maybe people kind of roll their eyes, but that's the great thing about it. You have to bounce back, and you have to go back to work, and you have to compete. And that's not just football. That's life. It's what everybody does every single day in their life.
You guys ever come across,
That's what
I'm going to say,
everybody
fake
has
it
to
till you
do
make
that.
it? Someone who's faked it
thrive
till he made it.
in plenty, and you can.
I think he's
thrive
still faking it
when you have
a little
to,
bit, which
you
is
can still
fucking,
be the same person.
which is sad. But
And I think that's what we try to do. That's what all the guys try to do. It's what you guys try to do with your life every single day, and that's what you do, And we were on the mountaintop this year many times, and we were down in the valley sometimes. We were in the middle a lot of different times, but we were still moving, and we're going to continue to do that. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
thanks, guys. Have questions? All right, so what do we think about that? It's what I expected. What I expected. But, I mean, we're never going to have true accountability here. Like you mentioned, Baltimore, the old days of asking real questions from reporters, that's when, unfortunately the Ravens have gotten away with that. And those reporters who want to ask those hard questions are not invited or not allowed to come to these things anymore. But that's it for me, guys. I appreciate you joining in, and I appreciate all the questions and comments from you, Baltimore football. And you guys have a good day, and you'll hear, I'll have some more kind of thoughts on this later today or tomorrow. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.